Hogwarts Castle, one of the most famous castles in fantasy history, and the showplace of one of the world's most successful book and movie series, Harry Potter. We have seen this castle represented in the movies in a breathtaking way, but my question is, how was it intended to look in the books? Hello everybody, my name is the Phoenix, and in this video we are going to explore how Hogwarts was intended to look in the books, word for word. Let's go on this journey together, sit back and enjoy. Now, originally at this point I would have been done. I spent over 100 hours, far over 100 hours. I had made maps to the best of my knowledge, how they should look, how Hogwarts Castle should look. I transferred them into Minecraft. Working on this project, I built the entire castle, I filmed everything, I edited it all down, and then I started working on the terrain. And whilst working on the terrain, I got from one problem to another. I just noticed a lot of mistakes that were really difficult to fix, because they had to do with directionality, and does the sun rise in the right direction, and does this window have the right viewing angle on Hagrid's hut, and all of those tiny little mistakes that are mentioned in one sentence in the book somewhere. And then I went to you guys and I asked you, shall I do it again? Shall I start anew? Shall I make things right? Or should I fix the issues I have right now that are fixable? Some of them weren't actually fixable, which was really sad, because I put a few towers in like slightly wrong spots, but in the end you guys decided I should start again. So with a lot more experience now, with over 100 hours of experience building Hogwarts Castle as a book accurate castle, let's start at square one again. As with my failed version, we have to start at planning, which means we have to gather information about every single detail the book Hogwarts has to offer. Now, I could read every single book, which would take a very long time, and this video wouldn't come out for another 5 months. But there has been one man, one very dedicated man I want to thank tremendously, who is Luke JKI, and what he has done is he has compiled all the information we have on book Hogwarts and has made it accessible on his website. He breaks down the entire castle in real depth, and it really helped me to gather all the information I needed. Now, I did not copy his map, I made my own because we disagree on a few things. I've talked to him, and there are slight nuances to how you can read and understand the books. Now, there's of course no right and no wrong, so here are the flaws from first to last. Now, the next part of the process was just the same as it was for the first time around, which was copying these maps into Minecraft. In the end, that took me 10 hours. So that's a benchmark for you just to know how long things take during this process, because I had to constantly have both the map and Minecraft open. I had to make everything work out so that in the end the dimensions would line up for every floor, have windows on one line, and all those tiny little geometric things, because in the end we're going for Gothic style here, because that's what fits best for the time Hogwarts was built in. And the one thing about Gothic is it is extremely mathematical. Everything is geometrically sound, and there's a lot of design choices that are very, very deliberate. Throughout the entire process, you will see me sometimes copying in certain elements, especially for the towers, and that's because they are from the old castle version and they totally work. There's no reason changing them because they are not affected by the major changes of the layout. So, for instance, McGonagall's office or Ravenclaw Tower, they will just be copied in from the other version. And with that information out of the way, let's go. Now, that took a lot longer than I expected, but we have all the floors over here. I separated them into the individual different floors here, so we have 8 floors in total, and then the towers over here. It's a colourful mess, and I can fully understand if that wasn't the most interesting time-lapse, but it was a necessary step, and I'm happy we got that out of the way. Over here is the old version, the old floor plan. You can see that comparing this courtyard over here to this one here, we are a lot bigger. We pulled everything a lot further away from one another, and that stretch, I think, makes the castle a lot grander and will end up making a more interesting Hogwarts castle because we have more dimensions. This is the old castle here. I pulled a bunch of rooms, so the Chamber of Secrets, the towers, the Hufflepuff Common Room, and the dungeons out already because there's no reason in rebuilding them. They are perfect as they are. We're just going to plop them into the spots. That's why I made sure that the radii of the circles over here match with those over here. This is the Quidditch pitch. This is Hagrid's hut. They will probably change positions over the course of the build. But yeah, we are done with this. This over here is just the movie Hogwarts layout, the floor plan. You can see comparing the two, or the three really. This one is a lot more stretched out than either of these, which leads to it being a lot bigger than it should actually be, because you have to imagine this and then like 7 or 8 times taller. But I'm happy we finished this step, and I'm looking forward to actually getting to the block palettes and then building the actual castle. Let's go. For the castle walls, we are going to use a variety of blocks, a mix between bricks and granite, jungle wood, but mainly we're going to use mud bricks and mud. We're going to texture that, and sadly I'm going to hand texture that, but we have a gradient all the way from soul sand to bricks, and we get a nice grimy look through that. For the windows we're going to use black stained glass, and then for the spires we're going to use copper just for the topping. The roof is going to be made from deep slate. For the interior wood paneling we're going to use dark oak, and we're going to use spruce and oak. The terrain will be trying to look mostly like the Scottish Highlands, so we are going to use a savannah grass colour and then a darker block palette for the rocks, so all the way from mud to tuff. And then paths and courtyards will just be cobblestone and dirt based. And with that we can start with the actual building. Let's go! So, one of the building techniques you'll see me using is debugging walls, and I'm sorry to everybody who's playing on Bedrock, because you can't really do that. It's not possible in Bedrock Edition. But to everybody who's using Java, get the Axiom mod. It's basically the best building mod there is out there. And then over here you have the Tinker tool and the No Updates. And with that, you can just right-click, and you can add or subtract the walls on this side. And that's how we get these really nice detailed Gothic pillars and these window details. I've been using them basically every bit. And you can also do funky stuff with torches. This isn't really possible. They will place like that, so I just put them up here and then move them down. The beauty with Axiom is just that you can basically do anything. I mean, look at this. Look at these possibilities, at these options. You have anything at your disposal, really. And if you can use Axiom, I'd highly recommend going and checking it out. There are some amazing tutorials. It might be a bit beginner unfriendly, but you'll get there eventually, and it makes everything so much faster. This is another type of design you'll see me using a lot, where we have the wood paneling I mentioned when talking about the block palettes. We're using shelves and trapdoors because they give some really nice detailing. And I am absolutely in love with this checkerboard style wood floor using mangrove wood. It fits so nicely into the block palette with the jungle wood, the mud bricks, and the granite. It feels like a very well-rounded and polished block palette, and it makes Hogwarts look a lot warmer than maybe just using mud bricks, which I wanted to achieve. It always feels very warm and welcoming in the books. That's something I definitely wanted to bring across with my castle too. The third floor is by far my favorite. It has some of the most interesting rooms. Right here we have the trophy room. I try to add as many different tiny little cups and trinkets and special objects. Another large room on the 3rd floor is the Defense Against the Dark Arts classroom. I didn't really decide what teacher I wanted this set, unlike with the office, which is Umbridge, as you're going to see. But here I went for mostly neutral one. Maybe it's Moody, maybe it's Umbridge, I wasn't quite sure. I try to keep it open to the imagination. For the library, the same as Luke, Jake and I decided to go for 2 floors. So we have the 3rd floor and the 4th floor. Technically, you can't enter from the 4th floor, but that way we get this really nice gallery all the way around. For the charms classroom, I made sure to add the feathers, and right here you can see there are so many interesting rooms on the 3rd floor. I am going to skip over most of the corridors and the minor rooms just because they aren't as interesting, but I'm trying to show as much of Hogwarts as possible just through this time lapse. So it might seem a bit long-winded, but it is really difficult to decide what to cut because every single room is so interesting and unique. This room right here, for instance, is the room where Harry first finds the Mirror of Erised before Dumbledore moves it down into the dungeon. The first tower we are going to add is going to be the Owlery. It is only accessible from the 4th floor, and you have a spiral staircase in the middle which leads to the very top. This is one of the few rooms that really stands out. This is the Prefect's bathroom with its stark white quartz walls, and I really like it. It feels very in theme even though it is so different. I find Slughorn's office to be really unique because it is this huge office and it has the potions area and the seating area, and you can really imagine parties going on in there, and it just feels very fitting for Slughorn as a character. This is the Astronomy Tower. It is the tallest tower in Hogwarts, directly followed by the Gryffindor Tower and then Ravenclaw Tower. With the base of the castle done, we can turn our attention to the greenhouses. There is some stuff that I didn't show you. So over here, if we look, the entire courtyard is textured. I didn't show most of the texturing process because it just takes ages. It is a really tiring and annoying thing to do. But we have the courtyard textured, I added a little fountain, and a lot has changed underground, as you might have seen. So the entire dungeons have been added. The only thing is, it's really annoying to film something underground once the above has been built, which probably wasn't the best idea, but here we are. I added a lot of different things, most notably the Chamber of Secrets and the kitchens, but I think I'm going to show you the Chamber of Secrets only in the reveal later, when everything is done, because I'm really happy with how it turned out, and I want to keep you watching, of course. But we can take a look into a few of the other rooms. These are the kitchens, perfectly placed underneath the Great Hall. And then just a few other rooms. We have, of course, the Hufflepuff common room down here, which I really like. This is the exact same version as the one I used when I built Hogwarts earlier. It's the exact same version because it's underground. There's no use in changing it, and that's what happened with a bunch of the other rooms. So classrooms, the Deaf Day party room, which is here, things that never even got included in movies. I already built them, so there was no sense in showing that old footage. So I'm just going to show you now. We have one of my favorite rooms, the potions classroom. Going to turn off night vision for that, and you can really feel the mood in here and imagine Snape walking around and shouting at students and all those lovely things that we get to see in the books, and sadly not in the movies as much. But a lot more. We have Snape's office, tiny little room, and of course the Slytherin common room, if I can find it in here, over here. Also an amazing room. I really like the lighting in this one. All the common rooms have full dormitories, which took ages because I actually went through with actually making every single one individual. I don't know why I did it. I decided if you want to look around, it's a bit more interesting if they are. It was, in hindsight, probably a stupid idea, but it makes it look a lot more interesting if you actually take your time and explore everything in here. And speaking of common rooms, you of course didn't see either of the other common rooms because I added them in during the process without actually having to build them. So in this tower, which is the Gryffindor tower, we have the Gryffindor common room, and I actually managed to fit all the dormitories, all 14 dormitories, up in the tower, which I'm really happy with. Up here we have the one of the boys, of Ron, Harry, Neville, and all the others, and they can actually look out at Hagrid's hut, which I'm really happy about. So things like the Fat Lady corridor, you didn't see that either in the time-lapse, but it looks like this, and again you should be able to see Hagrid's hut from the windows, which is something that's mentioned in the books. And over here we have the Ravenclaw common room. I really like this one. It's very airy and there's a lot of chairs and bookshelves around. We have the statue of Rowena Ravenclaw. For this one I wasn't able to put all of the common room, all of the dormitories up in this roof because you can see there's not a lot of room. So what I decided to do is I put it in this roof here, which also works out. So you have all 14 dormitories in this roof, and again, as you can see, every single one is individually built. No two are the same, which was probably a stupid idea. So with that out of the way, we have basically the entire castle. Everything's built. The entire castle is done. I don't know what I could change anymore, so that means we can start with terraining. Let's go. As you can see, I'm using diamond blocks for the terrain, and I will then later text that with Axiom, using mostly the auto shade tool and a bunch of brushes. This right here is basically what my technique for this terrain breaks down. I make a rough shape, which I then smooth down, and then I go over that with basically just rough rock faces that are then smooth into the terrain, and that way you get that sharp edge and the transition between smooth and harsh rock, which looks amazing when textured. This is the vegetable patch. I have just a bunch of different vegetables in small little patches, as the name says, and then I have a path running through that leads to the greenhouses. It's all a bit overgrown, but I think that's what gives it the character it really needs. Unlike most versions you've seen of Hogwarts, this one is square. It makes life easier, and there's really no description of Hogwarts ever being round. It's described as this wooden cabin on the edge of the forest with a big pumpkin patch. The challenge with the Quidditch pitch was making it look distinct from the movie version, not because I don't like it, but because there's just no description describing it as it is shown in the movies. So going for a more wooden design and removing the towers especially still resembles the Quidditch pitch, but just looks a bit different, which I'm really happy with. After building the Whomping Willow, we can finally start on making this terrain look more natural by adding trees and creating the Forbidden Forest as it should feel, dense and overgrown and full of very, very tall trees. Jumping to the other side of the map, this is Hogsmeade Station. Now, because of the size limitation, I'm having it run from basically one tunnel to another. The train is from my movie accurate Hogwarts because, again, it is an amazing train and I don't feel like rebuilding it. For Hogsmeade, I decided to start with the Three Broomsticks because it is by far one of the most recognizable locations in the entire village, aside from maybe the Shrieking Shack. So I built that first as a frame of reference, and then I started filling the high street with all the shops we know to exist in Hogsmeade. The Shrieking Shack sits a little ways above the village, on a hill, And for this one, I really made sure to have it feel like it's old and overgrown, boarded up, and just completely derelict and abandoned, which is exactly what we want to have. After finishing Hogsmeade by just adding a bunch of different normal houses to the outskirts of the village, I turned my attention back to the castle because there are actually 3 rooms, or more technically, but we are only focusing on 3 rooms that we haven't built yet, which are the rooms of requirement. This very first one here is the version for the DA, so where they practice, and I made sure to add the cushions and just a bunch of bookshelves as it is described in the books. Then the next version is the room where everything is hidden. It is described as being this huge cathedral-like build, larger than any cathedral ever made that Harry knows. So I made sure to start with the cathedral base and then fill it with all of the junk, all of the bookshelves, all of the furniture. I have been at this for several hours now. It is an incredibly repetitive process, but it can't look like it's repetitive, and that's the issue. I have been copying around a bit, but in total it's all just shelves and chairs and barrels, and a few fun details, paintings and alike. I've got like the astronomy orb we can see in the Half-Blood Prince, and in the back corner here I have a dragon egg, so I've been having some fun with it, and I decided I'm going to have some more fun with it by adding the Doors of Durin to Moria into this back corner here, because who's going to stop me? And it's just a fun Easter egg for you to spot if you ever walk around here. I grabbed this from a small project I had worked on in the past, and this works pretty perfectly in here. Looks great, and if we blend it out a bit more, it's going to fit right in here and just add some nice Easter eggs all around. I've got beds. I've had some fun with imagining what would happen if we have duplicating charms. We've got large chairs. You can just go at it. Armor stands, everything really, but it takes just ages to get all the smaller details in here, and that's why I'm a bit annoyed at this process. But I think in total, with this setting, with the cathedral-like look to it, it's going to turn out pretty amazing. So let's continue with the time lapse. Let's go. The last version of the Room of Requirement I am building is the version from the Deathly Hallows, where the rest of the DA then regroups and basically uses it as their headquarters for the rest of the story. We are almost done with the entirety of Hogwarts. The only thing that is really missing is the Mer People's village. I started with the stone statue where the hostages are bound to, and then I added a bunch of caves around the deepest part of the lake. I think for the rest of this video we can just walk around the grounds and enjoy the view. It really feels like Hogwarts Legacy, which I greatly enjoyed, which is amazing. There were only a few things missing from the grounds, and one thing that also had to be done is connect up all the secret passages that were still under Hogwarts. Just looking around the terrain, I am so happy with how everything turned out. I really like the rocks and especially the vegetation on the ground. It really feels like it is the Scottish Highlands. One thing that was also still missing is parts of the Forbidden Forest, so Aragog's Hollow still needed to be done, and Grob's Clearing at the very back of the forest. Then I basically kidnapped Rambo Leopard and forced him to build interiors for Hogsmeade with me, because I don't want any empty rooms or doors that lead to nowhere. So if you walk around, if you explore this map in the download, every single room should be filled. One thing I also cut was a tour I did with Rambo Leopard and Planet Dragonlord, which was an amazing chance to get some great feedback. Just look at this view, you can see both Hogsmeade and Hogwarts. I'm using Voxy mod for the render distance, and I love it. This is going to be where you start if you download the map, and then you can walk down like the students would in their first year, down to the lake, and take the boats over to the other side. This is the largest map I've ever built at this detail. I absolutely love the process. I love how it turned out. This wouldn't have been possible without you guys and your motivation. The download link is in the bottom of the description for both Bedrock and Java. If you enjoyed this, please consider giving a like or subscribing to see more in the future. And with that, the final reveal. Let's go.